All right, man. So we're gonna get to the meat and the potatoes here. Why do you like old stuff instead of new stuff?
Yeah.
What's up, everyone? Joe Gray here today for another AMA warm-up. I'm joined by my buddy Rob, Vintage Weights PGH. Rob, what's up, dude?
Nice to see you, Joe.
Yeah, you too. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Rob and I have connected for like 3, maybe 4-ish years,
Yeah.
right? I think it was
Right
pretty
at
early.
the beginning of me hopping on Instagram, I started
Yeah,
getting
it's
involved
when
with garage gym competition.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you called me the garage gym competition dude, I think on Jake's
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, that's fine, that's cool. Then we talked about vintage weights, and
Sure.
it's just kind of gone from there. So I'm happy to have you here. We had Efren
Yeah.
earlier this year, so he got to talk about some vintage stuff, which was cool. Introduce some people to his unbelievable collection of
Yeah, it's
insanity.
bonkers.
Yeah. And so now you're here. I think yours is a
Yeah.
little more modest than his, but
Yeah.
unique and awesome in its own way as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm excited to chat with you today and share your story a little bit, and then people get to ask you all kinds of cool questions during the AMA. So,
Yeah. I
cool.
look forward to it.
All right,
Absolutely.
man. So, first question, who are you? Why are you here?
I'm just a regular guy that likes to lift weights, and it just so happens I appreciate history. So once those two things combined, I started looking into the history of the weights that I was lifting, and that led me down just this path of vintage weights. So now I podcast. I'm just finished a book about Richard Saurin and the history of Sorinex. So I've been writing quite a lot the past year, and I'm hoping to have the book out in the new year. And yeah, I make videos for Vintage Weights PGH, my YouTube channel, about strength history as well as newer products and things.
Nice. So, for people that don't know, Sorex fits into the vintage weights thing, probably for a couple of reasons. One being that he has probably the only collection
Oh,
of vintage that might be better than Efren's, right?
it's
So,
insane. I haven't been to Efren's place yet, but I've watched a YouTube video of
yeah,
Brian Shaw like everyone else, and I've known Efren for a while, so I've
yeah,
seen his collection pictures and things
yeah,
and followed him other places. So I really can't compare one to the other, but I can just say that I have been to Sorinex in South Carolina a couple times this past summer working on the book and spent a lot of time at the museum, and it's bonkers. I mean, it's just so wild. Like you're to see one thing, you're stepping over something, and then when I look back at the footage that I filmed, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's like a historic dumbbell sitting there that like Mark Henry lifted for the first time, like the inch bell that he cleaned over his
yeah,
head for the first time. So yeah, stuff like that happens. So it's a very special place if you like strength history, and even if you're
yeah.
not deep into it, it's just really cool to go check out.
Yeah, I've seen things over the years, back when I was learning about vintage weights years back on the bodybuilding forums and stuff, and his name would pop up occasionally because he was always buying stuff from people.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, why is this guy that owns a gym
Yeah,
equipment company,
exactly.
right? Like, let me sell you all this new stuff, but by the way, I love all this old stuff, was just such a weird concept to me until
Sure.
I learned a little bit more about like their concepts and their ideas and everything like that. So,
Well, I mean, I think it's he lived a wild life, like a really adventurous life, legendary life to use be legendary their slogan. So, you know, I definitely told his life story in the book, but then there's also huge chunks of the book about the product development. And I didn't really fully realize until I mean, I had an inkling of the contributions they made to, home gym culture and what we use in our gyms
yeah.
when I had Bert Soren on my podcast, Home Gym History. But until I really researched it and dove in head first, I mean, I had no idea the depth that, yeah, just about every other thing in my gym traces back to them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, man. So let's take
Yeah.
dive into. We're not going to ruin your book for everybody that should go out and buy it when
Yeah,
it
yeah.
comes out. So, number two, tell me about your lifting experience. So you started as a kid, whatever. Where are you at now? What's that all look like?
Uh, yeah. I mean, with youth sports and things like that, went into the weight room, didn't really know what I was doing, until fortunately I had an amazing gym teacher, PE teacher when I was in high school, and a really nice upperclassman that this upperclassman went and spoke to the gym teacher, said, "Hey, can we do?" And I was at a small school, so it was possible to do stuff like this.
Yeah,
Could we somehow have gym class be just in the weight room? Like,
yeah,
could that be my gym class? And then they framed it as like, well, we'll make it educational. Who do you think we should bring in here? And the guy knew me and suggested me. So myself and I think there was about a dozen of us, boys and girls, had instead of regular gym class, we went to the weight room and we learned
nice.
how to lift. So that really set me on the right track in terms of technique and stuff like that. And don't worry though, I have really horrible technique as a 43-year-old at this point. So I'm not really a beacon of hope for
Yeah,
my old gym teacher, but for a while there, at least got me on the right foot. And then, yeah, I just continued, just never competitively up until recently. I've gotten heavy into grip strength. So I just did kind of all around lifting,
yeah,
dabbled a little bit in some programs for powerlifting, some programs for strongman, but nowhere near what I would need to be to compete. And then grip strength, I really got into about a year to year and a half ago, I'd say. And that's in addition to just main lifts, that's a lot of my training. And I started competing with Arm Lifting USA and with Grip Sport International, the two main grip strength organizations.
nice. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the key. I've seen people evolve over the years and they're lifting and different stuff. And it's just as long as you're consistent. Like it doesn't even matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
You lift something, anything, whatever.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
overhead, above your face, or behind your back, or whatever, if you're active and stuff for a long time, you're good. So, yeah, and clearly you enjoy the concept of lifting as a whole, that it
Sure.
will never leave your existence. It's
Yeah.
just it continues to move and groove as something different. So, yeah. All right, man. So that's your lifting. Tell me about your involvement in the home gym community. When did that start? How did it start? Where are you at now?
Well, I mean, garage gym competition was a nice, point of reference that Instagram, I just started throwing up like pictures of like this dumbbell or whatever that I had. And it just led to meeting people and then Facebook groups and forums and things like that. There's a small but passionate group of vintage weights
Uh,
collectors. So I think I was somewhat more in the vintage weights world first and then branched out beyond that because I just started talking to other people and I I learn a lot really in the home gym community. So um Jake at Garage Gym Experiment reached out to have me a guest on his podcast as a guest on his podcast. And then shortly after that, approached me about having my own podcast on Garage Gym Radio's podcast network. So that's where Home Gym History started. And, having guests on the show, making connections with them and talking with them. And then just also, whether a guest on the show or not, just people that I've met along the way. Grip strength is also kind of like this small
yeah.
little world, if you would. So, I mean, I think I have one coworker that lifts weights, let alone,
Uh,
focuses on grip strength. So,
uh,
when you meet another grip strength, like I posted a meme recently of Step Brothers where they're like screaming at each other. I think we just became best
yeah.
friends. And the meme I made was when you meet anyone else that does grip strength.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and to credit a lot of the grip strength athletes, they were so helpful and still are so helpful educating anyone that wants to get into it. So many different guys and gals just really helped me. They'd see something I posted and in a very polite, nice way would reach out, "Hey man, like if you just kind of like start it this way, it's gonna lift a
Sure.
lot easier, or do
Yep.
this, you're using too much chalk, whatever."
Yep.
you know. So that's those things kind of led me in, and then home gym con just sent it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
So getting involved with Jake and helping plan grip strength competition at home gym con this past year, and being involved the first year at home gym con, I've just met a lot of people there as well that are just, you know, great
Yeah.
great fun people that enjoy lifting in their home gym and have
Yep.
the same kind of pursuits that I do and that I know
Yep.
you do.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, the niche is always an interesting one
Yeah,
of anything, right? The even the difference between like I have a neighbor a couple of doors down that has some equipment in their garage, but like it's got clothes on it and things like that, right? As
yeah, exactly.
opposed to like people walk by and they see, our garage doors open and they're like, that's better than my commercial gym kind of thing,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
there's just levels to all of it, right?
sure.
Like I pick up some stuff and I train my grip, but I would never call myself like a grip training person, right?
Yeah,
But I know there's a handful of them that compete in the competition, and every time I've talked to them in any way, one, they know everybody else that trains grip.
yeah,
And two, they, like you said, they're because they're so passionate about it, you ask them, hey, what about, and they got answers and they want to talk more about it and everything like that. And
totally.
so I think for me, that's what's always been really cool about being in these niche groups is the passion and want to share that with other people. It's just a cool way to connect that may not be normal,
Yeah, yeah,
but is very cool. So
for sure. And
yeah,
at competitions, I mean, it's like a free seminar.
yeah,
I mean, you're like, because there's more experienced people than you.
sure.
And so just watching what they're doing and hearing what they're telling you, I mean, it doesn't get better than that.
Awesome. All right, man. So we're gonna get to the meat and the potatoes here. Why do you like old stuff instead of new stuff?
Yeah. Well, I would say that it's not so much I like it instead of new stuff. I do have new stuff. Like I love my Mutant Metals UDA that
Yeah,
I just got last summer. It's awesome. He made a bare steel one for me by my request, and he
yeah,
put leather inserts instead of
yeah,
plastic. So Chris just hit it out of the park, and belt fed strength provided the leather.
yeah.
So the two Chris's just did a great job. So I do love new things, but I like to go back in time and kind of research and find some of the old stuff and compare it. And that's where a lot of my videos come about. That even if it's something new that I'm talking about, like I did a video about Mayhem Strengths Deep Dish, I
Yeah,
compare it to older designs.
yeah,
As far as the old stuff, I, I just part of it is the history that I love studying history and I like to see the origin. Um, Part of it was cheapness. I was stone broke when it came to
yeah,
having any money for a gym. Like I got a cheap bench to start and I wedged it between like my furnace and my water heater in my basement.
yeah.
And so you could find old weights really cheap online and then restore them. I mean, I know you've done some restorations and
Yep,
things because I've talked with you about it and did a
yep,
little gym tour of yours.
yep,
So that was the other part was cheapness. That
yep,
I mean, when you see an amazing, collection or something like that of anything, you're going to think, oh my gosh, what's the price tag on that? But a lot of times, whether it's weights or anything else, you can go out there and try to find it on the cheap.
yep,
So that's where a lot of my weights, I've purchased at market value, some of them, and really spent quite a bit of money on. Other, uh, I would wager the majority of my weights, I've gotten fairly cheap because I'm willing to drive and willing to go,
yep.
hustle and get out there and find them. And so that's the last thing is I really like the adventure of it. Like it's almost like an Indiana Jones feeling, like you're uncovering like this artifact and bringing
Yeah,
it back to life. So like this, I haven't restored it yet, but recently I picked up a very old York barbell and old ship wheel collars that came out of a barn and looked like they had been buried in dirt. I mean, they were beyond
wow.
rusty. Like
Yeah,
they looked straight excavated.
yep.
And so, yeah, like getting out there in farm country and finding that and bringing it back. And now that's one of my next projects. I'm going to bring it back to life and lift with
Nice.
them. That's a cool feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I have an article on my website about used gym equipment, how to find it, how to plan
Yeah.
for it, etc. And throughout, because every time I talked to someone about used gym equipment, it was always the stories that came up. Hey, this one
Yes.
time I went
Yeah.
out here and this thing and that thing. And so for like every section of the article, I include a story
For
because I was
sure.
like, that honestly, that was the best part.
Yep.
I've got a friend of mine who competes in the competition, Manda, who
Mhm.
told me during COVID she needed a new bar and there weren't any bars. And
Yeah.
this guy, she lives in Texas, listed a bar and she goes out and she says she shows up. There's like three other people. The guy walks all of them out to this barn out in the middle of nowhere, and they're all looking at each other like, we're gonna get Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Yeah.
right? Like that's
Yeah.
what's gonna happen right
It's
now. And the
not
guy
looking
just
good.
opens the barn door and is like, here's the bars, they're 25 bucks a piece, take it and
Yeah.
leave it. And they're like, okay, here's somebody buy, and they leave, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I've had some sketchy ones,
Oh
some
yeah.
ones where me and my wife have gone, hey, it's a good thing I look the way I look, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and different stuff. And
I when I go alone, I send a lot of times I'll send my wife the address, like a
yeah,
screenshot of the seller's like username and address that they sent me. And if it's in like a sketchy part of town or if it's something feels off, I'm like, wait,
yeah.
why did they block me in and pull in behind me? Like why? Which happened recently. Like I pulled in a driveway and then someone pulled in behind me and I'm like, oh boy, like
Uh-oh.
what is
Yeah.
happening?
They knew you showed up with a couple
Yeah.
$100, right? And they're gonna
Yeah.
jump you. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it was just someone else in the house getting home.
Yep.
They didn't know who I was, but it felt weird.
Yeah, the stories have always been fun. And I've talked with Ashton at Freedom Fitness
Yeah,
about
for
buddies of
sure.
mine
I
who
know
have been
Ashton.
yeah, buddies of mine who have been involved in the home gym game for quite a while. It's like not everybody, but a lot of people, that's kind of where they start is they buy a
Yeah.
couple of things and then they want to buy more, and so they start buying used. And because that's the only way to kind of come
Mhm.
up in the world, unless you got a whole bunch of money.
Yeah,
And so,
that's not
yeah,
me. So
yeah.
that's where, yeah, I mean, I flipped weights to
Yep,
put together my gym. And then the same thing, even some of the more high value dollar um, vintage weights and modern stuff I bought, because like my UDA from Chris wasn't cheap.
yep,
The money came from
yep,
finding some diamonds in the rough and
yep,
earning that money.
yep. Turn around, sell them to someone else,
Yeah.
and then, yep, yep, I'm with you.
Or trading. I
Yeah,
trade a lot too.
yeah, yep. Yeah, and the used market, and it's a lot different now than when I used to use it on a regular basis.
Yeah.
My heavy experiences were pre-COVID, not
Yeah.
post-COVID. Used weights for 50 cents a pound,
Yeah.
no matter what you were selling or buying. But yeah, but it's still a good opportunity. And if you know what you're looking at, like yourself, you can pick up some stuff from some people and then, like you said, turn back around and sell it to someone who wants it, needs it, will cherish it.
Yeah.
From my set, I had a couple of leftover plates that didn't fit when I redid everything in my space. So I sold, I think it was a pair of 35s and a pair of 10s. And, I had no use for them. They didn't fit on my rack, nothing. And I think it was like $300 or something for them.
Yeah.
And that completed one dude's collection, which is what he was looking for. They were
Perfect.
out of
Yeah.
my way. They
Yeah.
actually probably paid for like half of what I paid for my whole set 5 years beforehand. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, it's one of those win-win-win situations.
For
So,
sure.
yeah. All right, man. So, last question. This is the most important one.
Yeah.
Give me one reason why people should be excited about your upcoming AMA.
Uh, I think just to ask questions about anything they want in strength history, and just know that I don't have all the answers, but I really like finding them.
Yeah.
So I don't know everything when it comes to vintage weights or strength history. That's for sure. There's a lot of people more knowledgeable than me, but I am confident in going out there and trying to find some answers, or just being honest and saying, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Cool.
But and also just anything I'm working on, it's YouTube videos on my channel or the Sorex book. Anything with my podcast, Home Gym History or Home Gym Con. Jake just put out the floor plan yesterday,
Uh,
and I have the grip strength competitions in the middle of the floor, which is pretty fun, and
nice.
in the middle of the booth. So we'll
Yeah.
kind of be right in the heart of the convention, which will be cool. So
Cool.
yeah, I'll be planning that.
Nice. You're going, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I'll be there. I'll be running the grip strength competition and then doing podcasts and stuff
Nice.
as usual.
I should be there this year. So
Nice.
yeah. So
Good to hear it.
the other location was tough. Getting there from
Yeah,
Cali was a little rough.
sure.
This one where me, my wife, and my daughter are all gonna go. We're gonna make a trip out of it.
Nice. Louisville.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll do a couple things before, then head there, do a couple things after, and then make our way back home. And
Oh,
so
that's cool, man.
yeah, it should be cool.
That's very
So
cool.
yeah,
Hey,
so.
swing sesh will probably be there. Your daughter will love it.
She likes gym equipment, so
Yeah. Well, she'll
we're
like it all
good.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Good to
She
go.
helps me assemble most of the stuff that shows
Nice.
up that I do reviews on, and
Yeah, yeah.
she's working on making her way down to do a flat Nordic curl. She's
Okay.
almost there, so she's got her own rickshaw that I made her, and all kinds of
Nice.
stuff, and
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, one of her favorite things when we go to the park is people say like we have a really cool zip line at the park,
Uh-huh.
and I just throw her like crazy, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, "How do you hold on so good?" And she goes, "Well, I train Ninja Warrior, and then I'm a power lifter."
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're like, "What do you mean
Okay.
by I'm a power lifter?" And she's like, "Well, I deadlift 85 pounds," and everyone's just like, "But you're a 7-year-old girl? Like I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
understand
Hey,
that."
that's
And
fine.
so,
My oldest, I have 4 children,
yeah,
and my oldest I brought with me to Home Gym Con last year to be my cameraman.
nice.
So he was my assistant, my
Yep.
cameraman, and hung out and yeah,
Yep. Yeah,
had a
I
good
got.
time. I mean, he went all over the place and had a great time trying out equipment and all kinds of
Yep.
stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I've got a few pictures. When Audrey has the time and she's home, she likes to take pictures. She likes to use the
Nice.
camera.
There
So
you go.
yeah, so there's quite a few. And what's cool is then I get to teach her, like especially
Yeah.
with the big camera, it's she gets to learn about aperture and all kinds of different things and shutter speed and whatnot. And
Yeah.
this is how you focus the camera, and oh, it focused on that over there instead of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
thing, and how do you change that, and all these different stuff. And so, and then somebody comes over and they're like, "Do you want to see the pictures I took?" And so yeah, because they're
Yeah.
always super proud of their work, so which is cool. So all
I
right,
mean,
man.
it was a
Five
good time.
questions, super
Yeah.
simple. I will put down in the description for everyone
Cool.
links to Rob's various stuffs as
Yeah.
well as details on his upcoming AMA. Hop on over there, ask him questions, learn about vintage things and old lifting thingy
Yeah.
bobbers and whatnot. And as he said, if he doesn't know the answer, maybe you will spark
Yeah.
a cool new episode for him to research on his podcast. So,
Maybe.
yeah, there we go. All right,
Hey, thanks so
everybody.
much.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks, dude.